Let's talk about MPs now. They've just voted, our MPs in Westminster have just voted to basically compulsorily ban our representatives from the House of Commons if they are accused of violent or sexual crimes. So my question there would be, what about the principle of innocent until proven guilty? MPs have voted by a majority to bring this in. So from now on, if an MP is not charged, is accused, if there are allegations that they committed a crime, allegedly, especially if it was sexual or violent, doesn't have to be sexual or violent, then a committee will sit in judgment and say, right, you're suspended or you're not suspended. So they haven't been found guilty of a crime, but a committee in Parliament will decide whether or not they'll be kicked out of Parliament, basically, even though they have been convicted of no offences. I think this is the thin end of a dangerous wedge. Let's talk to Barrister Andrew Eborn. Hi, Andrew.
Hi, Kev. It's so good to see you. I love your new studio, and it's a joy to join your brilliant team again.
Well, it's a joy to have you on board, as always, Andrew. But now, wearing your extremely important barrister hat, this worries me. I've always said for a long time we are in the age of the accusation. It is extremely concerning that I could stand up and say Andrew Eborn is whatever, you know, I could charge you or say you're some sort of sexual predator or whatever. That could ruin your life without it being proved. Ask Kevin Spacey, ask all sorts of people who have been convicted by the court of public opinion, as opposed to the real courts who, in Kevin Spacey's case, acquitted him. Both sides of the Atlantic, if you want to know. Now, MPs are now also trying to supersede what should be the guiding sacred principle of British justice, and that is you are innocent until proven guilty. If you are accused or alleged to have committed a crime, particularly sexual or violent, and you're an MP, a committee will now sit in judgment and say, right, you're suspended. Well, you know, how do they know he's guilty of this?
They don't, is the honest answer. And you're absolutely right, Kev, to call it out. It is a fundamental tenet of law and justice that people are innocent until proven guilty. You have to go through the whole process. But just to clarify a couple of points, is if they are arrested, it's the point of arrest rather than so the process would be you get arrested and then it may lead to a charge and then you go in front of a jury or a court and they decide whether you're innocent or guilty. What they've done, it was a really narrow vote. It was 170 votes to 169, so just that one vote swayed it. They said that basically on the time when they are actually charged with the offence is not the relevant one at all. It is the time that you're arrested. So you've got an issue there. As you say, it's the court of public opinion. You've got people who may turn around and say, well, we're going to cause a bit of trouble for this particular politician because we don't like them. And as a result, we're going to accuse them, as you say, so they might get arrested, but not yet charged. And this could go on forever. Now, the problem here is not only the individual MP, but also the constituents that MP is supposed to serve. Because if they're not allowed in Parliament, they're unable to serve them. So it is absolutely wrong. It's a fundamental principle of English law and other laws around the world. And I think it's appalling that this has happened.
Yeah, I mean, if MPs, our representatives in the mother of all parliaments, don't respect the principle of innocent until proven guilty, where are we as a nation? They're basically saying, never mind the courts, we'll make the decision. And by the way, Andrew, as you well know, even if I'm charged with an offence, I am still innocent of it until it is proven that I am not innocent, that I am guilty in a court of law. MPs saying, oh, well, you know, we're above all that. That is wrong, and it endorses the age of the accusation. You can just hurl out an accusation and ruin someone's life. What the line the MPs are taking now is a charter for nasty people who want to screw up their enemies' lives, isn't it?
No, you're absolutely right, and I think it's appalling. When you look at it, so the rationale behind it, obviously there's been a spate of MPs who have gone through the process and been convicted. Some have served prison sentences and so on and so forth. And that has gone through the due process. So what's happened is trust is at an all-time low in a number of institutions, in the police, in the media, in politicians. And I always say that trust comes in on foot and leaves on horseback. And the idea of this measure was to basically try to restore that trust. But as you rightly point out, it's gone way too far, and it's eroded a fundamental right, which is that right of presumption of innocence until proven guilty. It's wrong, and it should not go through, or shouldn't have gone through. They need to relook at it.
Yeah, I mean, Jess Phillips said, oh, no, we've got to do this, As soon as the charge comes up, we should suspend people. Hitherto, the system is... Now, you know, we've seen all these MPs have been charged with various offences. It's often sexual. And by the way, most of them, it comes to nothing. You know, after a year of agony, it all dissipates and they're back in Parliament. So what the system has been hitherto is that they sort of recuse themselves. They obviously decide, well, it wouldn't be right for me to go into the Commons, I won't go. Their decision. That's fair enough. But to be told, to be ordered not to go to the Commons, which is what will happen under this new system, it sets up a whole new court of law, doesn't it? Or not of law, a whole new court. Parliament will sit in judgment of these people before they've been found guilty in a court.
Yeah, it's an absolute nonsense, as you say. On what basis can they reach that decision? It has to go through the due process where evidence is heard, and it's much better. We're always told as baby barristers that it's much better to let 99 guilty people off than one innocent person be convicted. Well, this is not only the court of public opinion because it sticks, as they say. You hurling up rubbish around at people, hurling up insults, enough accusations, that will stick. And in the current internet age, when we're drowning in a sea of information and social media, that will be around forever. So people's lives will be ruined as a result of it. I'm not a fan of trial by media anyway. And I think this is far, far worse. You're dealing at a much earlier stage when they've just been arrested and not even charged. It's wrong.
So all these MPs that voted for this new draconian system, they would say exactly what you said, Andrew. Trial by media is wrong. Well, it's going to be trial by MPs, which is even worse. And by the way, it's not trial by media, it's trial by the people. If you stick out an accusation, OK, the media will run the story. Will say this MP has been suspended by other MPs because he's been accused of this very serious crime, probably sexual or violent. And you know what the public are like. They go, oh, well, he's guilty. Well, you know what he's like. It's sex and it's violence. He's guilty. It isn't trial by media. This system will bring about trial by Parliament, and that's wrong. And that will bring about trial by the people. The people will see what Parliament have said. They have spoken. This person needs to be suspended from the House because of these serious charges. The people will go, oh, well, he's guilty then.
No, you're absolutely right. And as I say, you've got to look at, always in these cases, you look at the mischief. What are they trying to do? And as I go back to what I was saying beforehand, they're trying to restore trust. Because there have been too many, one case is too many, but there have been too many criminal offences where they've gone through the process and MPs have been convicted. And that is what they're trying to say is, well, can we deal with it earlier to restore the public's trust? But for the reasons both you and I have already explained, it's wrong and it doesn't work. It's unfair and it's unfair on everybody in the equation.
Yeah, Andrew, well, exactly. I couldn't agree with you more. This is a really bad development and it should be stopped. Parliament MPs should not have the right to sit in judgment of other MPs who are accused of offences that they are not qualified to judge. A court of law is qualified to judge on that, and people like yourselves. So while I've got you on, though, what do you make of Valdo Calacane, the Nottingham killer? The appeal court today ratified the decision of the court that he was, so badly affected by mental health issues that he has to go to a mental hospital or a secure hospital as opposed to a proper prison. The families of the victims say they were denied justice, that this was trial by doctors, and that they fear that, you know, because he cried mental health, that this might happen again and again and again. That are the courts potentially, like the rest of the nation, arguably too enthralled to mental health?
Well, it's a difficult thing, Kevin, because we always turn around, Kev. We turn around, we see the headline again in the media. And what happens is justice should not just be done, but be seen to be done. And we started just very recently, fairly recently, a couple of summers ago, televising the sentencing remarks of judges to explain that there is an art to it. There's both an art and a science, and any judge should be able to reach exactly the same verdict based on the evidence. But the evidence often goes on for weeks and weeks and weeks, which the judges take into consideration. And they then turn around on a formula, if you like, set by the sentencing council as to what should happen in those particular circumstances. And normally what there's a tariff. And what happens is you get what's called aggravating circumstances, which might mean you get more than the average tariff, but also mitigating circumstances, which means that you get less. And that's what the court has to unpack. And again, the difficulty we get is we're sort of in an era of sound bites where you hear those headlines, as you say, people are playing the mental health card too often, and therefore you devalue it every time you hear it. The reality is that the courts, we have to get our faith back in the courts. And that's why they've started to televise the sentencing of a number of these trials. If you remember the difference between things like the O.J. Simpson trial all those years ago, which is wall-to-wall television, and you come over here and you get a little artist who does a little sketch of the defendant, which they hold up. It's very, very different. But they're trying to address that. They're trying to restore the trust in the legal system by making sure we can televise it, give a bit more time to the explanation, because you're quite right to question everything. Why is the mental health card being played? And is it being played correctly? Because it's there for a purpose. Is it being abused?
Yeah, I mean, you know, Valdo Calacone, it may be justified. There are reports he had a very serious cannabis habit, which may have blown his brains out. So if his mental health issues are self-inflicted, I'm not sure we should give them all that much credence if it's down to drugs. But also what worries me about our justice system, what worries me about this country, I think in every day in every way we become kind of a bit more soppy. And it's like, oh, mental health, oh, well, it's mental health. Mental health is the catch-all. That is the excuse that we all apparently have to accept as absolutely valid. Well, I'm worried that we'll get more and more Valdo Calacanes, because every single anybody who goes around murdering people they've never met, I mean, they've got a case to say they're not right in the head. How many more such murderers are we going to let off like this?
No, you're absolutely right. So what needs to happen, this is when the judges do the sentencing. There's a number of aspects there. There's the deterrent to stop people in the future, but there's also the rehabilitation and making sure that the defendant is given appropriate care and treatment and will be reintroduced into society at an appropriate moment, if that is right. The difficulty is, and you're right to point it out, the mental health card is not and shouldn't be a get-out-of-jail-free card. There has to be very strict criteria which are judged by people who are experts in these fields to work out if it's right in those particular circumstances that the sentence is adjusted accordingly.
Well, my view is, and I feel for the families, they feel they've been denied justice. They feel this guy, because it was manslaughter due to diminished responsibility, due to his mental health conditions, they feel that he got away with murder, and I think they've got a point. Great to talk to you, Andrew. Come on again very soon, yeah? That's Andrew Eborn, barrister.